What's up, my beautiful people? Exile451 here with yet another daily dose of Reddit Happy. Going back into r/AskReddit again today, so let's get to it. Alright, got a really funny one here today that I'm sure a lot of you are going to be able to relate with. The AskReddit question was, what's the funniest misconception you had about the world when you were a kid? Oh, and there are some good ones here. I noticed ducks caused tiny waves in ponds, so I figured giant ducks must inhabit the oceans to cause waves of such magnitude. Has anyone seen that James Veach bit about the rubber ducks? Because that's the first thing that came to mind for me. Follow-up comment on that, though. Yarr, I've been sailing these seas for decades. I lost 12 good men to the Great Quack. The lucky ones drowned. The rest were like breadcrumbs on the waves. That the car's turn signal was magical. It knows ahead where my dad would/should turn, so it starts blinking the appropriate arrow/direction. After my dad makes the turn, it stops blinking. So magical. That $100 was a crap ton of money. Follow up on that one? Just think about all the candy you could buy with that kind of money. Because of course that's what a kid would think. I'll be honest, I know that's what I would think. That EST 1974, or whatever outside of a business, meant that they estimated that the business was started in 1974. I got it for old businesses, but could never figure out why they couldn't pin down a year for recent ones. That all grown-ups had their crap together and know what they're doing in life. Oh gosh, ain't that the truth. The first time we got a VCR with a remote control, I asked my mom how it worked. She said something like, "You can play a movie without getting up from the couch." I envisioned myself sitting on the couch, using the remote to make a video magically float from the shelf over to the VCR. I immediately started working out a plan to sneak this incredible new device out of the house and use it to levitate cars and other objects outside. As it turns out, that is not how a remote works. Just channeling your inner Jedi there. I thought a dad and a father were different things. Because of Star Wars, I thought a father was an evil version of a dad, and I thought you could have both. I have a good dad, so I always wondered why I didn't have a father. I grew up as a kid in the early 80s in West Berlin/Germany. When I watched TV, we were able to receive the TV signals from East Germany. They only had two channels, DDR1 and DDR2, and both aired in black and white. As a 4-year-old kiddo, I thought the world in the former East Germany, the people, the buildings, or cars, was just black and white, while the rest of the world was in color. When I was 5, me and my parents took a trip to East Berlin. You can't imagine what kind of mind trip happened to that little kid back then as I witnessed they actually live in color. I can actually kind of imagine it though, because if you think back, it used to be that all films were in black and white, and the reason The Wizard of Oz was so celebrated the year that it came out, and I think won at least one Oscar, over the timeless classic of Gone with the Wind, was the simple fact that it was the first movie in color. At least that's what I've been told anyway. So while obviously I wasn't alive at that point, I can kind of imagine it's a similar experience. That divorce was a knife fight, and whoever won, or lived I should say, would get the wife. You can imagine how shocked I was when my aunt's ex-husband showed up at my house to say hi to his daughters. Well, some divorces sadly do end up being knife fights. I've got a good friend going through one right now, so yeah. That mustaches grew out of noses. Have you seen some people's nose hair? Because I could understand where you'd get that belief from, with a few examples. That everyone lives until they're 100. I was unfazed by the Pokemon cards my sister got because once I turned 98, they would all be mine. Well, that's one way to catch them all. I thought the world was like a glass sphere half filled with dirt, and we lived on the flat surface of the dirt. No one explained the geometry of the Earth to me in a way that I understood. that I could make an airplane out of scrap parts that would fly via a blowtorch aimed at the ground. I also thought that if it crashed, we would all be totally fine and that such crashes would just be a step towards perfecting my plane. Hey, everyone's got to start somewhere. Common one, but that the moon followed me around everywhere. I'm sorry, common? This is literally the first time I've ever heard this. And now you've just got me thinking of Majora's Mask with that diabolical moon just staring down at you as it's about to crash into Hyrule. Oh gosh, am I glad that's not true. I thought that once you bought a product, the ad would go away for it. I think it was the Hot Wheels Shark Pack that first surprised me. I saw the ads on TV, got it for my birthday, and then when I saw the ad again, my whole world shattered. Now I have ad block. I thought that tiny people lived in the television, and when you watched a movie or a TV show, the little people were acting it live for you. I would get upset when someone paused or rewound a movie because I thought it was rude to the people to make them have to start again. Oh, I never thought that myself, but I could see where someone might come up with that idea. Couple follow-ups on that. I had this thought as well, though we didn't have VCRs back then, so I didn't have a concept of rewinding or pausing. My fear was if someone unplugged the power cord unexpectedly that they might fall out of the cord and get hurt on the floor. Because in my scenario, the little people lived in the wall near the TV. That's where they would change costumes for the next show, and they would crawl in through the power cord. That is quite the imaginative story there. Seriously, that is wow. For a kid to just think that, I'm pretty impressed. While I didn't think there were little people in the TV, neither did I fully grasp the concept of actors. For example, when I was 5 or so, some idiot burned down our kindergarten. Arsony at a kindergarten. Like, what the heck? Well, at least it was on a weekend, so it's not all bad. Was neat being transferred to the abandoned insane asylum until the repairs were done. Anyway, I found out about it when my mom yelled at me to come downstairs, quickly. I see some footage of the fire on the news, and then they transitioned to a reenactment with a rather shady-looking guy jogging across the sandboxes away from the building and out of camera. So, unbeknownst to the average viewer, towards the super big fences I figured he just had no chance of jumping. So, obviously, the first thing I said to my mom was, well, why didn't the film crew do anything? There are like 5 of them. I thought vehicles will be towed at owner's expense meant the owner could choose how much the expense was. Oh, if only. We had some pretty predatory towing companies where I went to college, and seriously, I was out of my car for 2 minutes. Not even. I didn't even go inside this person's apartment. I showed up at their door, waited for them for a little bit to come out, and then we were going off somewhere, and I'd already gotten a boot on my car. Literally, like they just drove up and stuck it on. It was insane how fast they did that. Middle of the day, too. And the only reason I got off of it was because a former roommate of mine was one of the people that was working there. And he was like, oh, okay, never mind then. And he just took it off. Still, it was so annoying. I thought erectile dysfunction was a reptile dysfunction, and the medication that was being advertised for was for pet owners of reptiles for when their reptiles got sick. The word epilepsy in Swedish is epilepsy, roughly pronounced the same. For the longest time, I thought epilepsy was, I'm not even going to try and pronounce that, which translates to Eaten Lipsil. Lipsil is a brand name of lip balm. After I heard someone at my father's work had died when he hit his head during an epileptic seizure, I was horrified of using lip balm. As a kid, my lips were insanely dry. This probably makes more sense if you know Swedish. Okay, so funny story related to this, because you guys know that I'm full of them. When I used to work for the radio station, they had suite tickets to an event center where a minor league hockey team in this area would play. And it was super cool to be able to go to a sports event and just chill in a suite for free. I mean, yeah, minor league, so, it's not the big stuff, but it was still a lot of fun. Plus, we saw some great fights on the ice. Anyway, so there was this one night that I went, and I think this was one of the nights my wife didn't go with me for whatever reason. And they start off, and the announcer is just talking about how tonight's game is sponsored by this epilepsy foundation, and just going on about the dangers of epilepsy and the triggers and all these other things that cause it. And I think, if I remember correctly, they had some kids that this group represented out there on the ice. And so as soon as he's done giving his spiel, they all turn and start walking away. And the next thing you hear is the announcer screaming and hyping up the crowd at the top of his lungs like he's paid to do about, and now make some noise for your local team, and lights start flashing everywhere throughout the arena. I was standing there just like, what the crap is this? You just went through this whole minute and a half monologue about epilepsy, and now you're triggering epileptic seizures into every single one of these kids that was just out here. I was dying with laughter. I mean, it was terrible, but at the same time, it was such a sitcom moment. I thought the smoke trails from jets became the clouds. I grew up in West Texas, which often had cloudless skies. I would see a jet pass overhead with a smoke trail and think, oh yay, the cloud makers are here today. It will be nice to have some clouds later. I remember getting $20 in a birthday card and thinking I was loaded. $20? Going to be a good day at the comic shop. Dogs were the boys, cats were the girls. When you get married, you pray a lot, and God literally takes a piece of both parents and puts them in the mom's belly. I inherited my dad's bad knees and thought God literally took a chunk of my dad's knees. There was a bald woman with cancer at my church. I was 5 and never cut my hair. She always complimented me and said, I wish I had hair like yours. I heard about Locks of Love and wanted to donate my hair. I thought they'd shave my head. Literally, take all my hair. And I was scared to death of Santa Claus. I left him a note saying, please don't come inside, leave the gifts in the yard. He apologized for scaring me and left the gifts in the yard. Mountains and hills were dead dinosaurs that, over time, had soil, dirt, and vegetation grow over the skeletons. That pigs grew bacon every few weeks, and you just shaved them. Oh, that would be so nice. I love bacon. Which is funny because in my family, it's super, super uncommon to have it. I know I've shared this story before, but when my dad was getting permission to propose to my mom, her stepmom was just like, well, I hope you don't like bacon because she won't cook it. And that's just been a running joke in our family ever since. But it's true. She flat out refuses to cook bacon because she says the smell gets in her hair and everything else. But since my wife and I are the foodies in the family, we end up doing most of the cooking anyways when we go visit, so she'll just buy the bacon and then not worry about it. When you buy a house, the people you bought it from then have to buy and live in your old house. Couldn't tell you what happens if you bought a brand new house though. Younger me didn't really think that one through. I often heard the expression, it's a dog-eat-dog world out there, in reference to the cruelty of the world. However, I went my whole life believing people were saying dog-eat-dog world instead. It didn't make much sense to me, but hey, I had met some mean dogs before, so I never really contested it. Without ever challenging dog-eat-dog, I would eventually start rationalizing the stupid thing, contriving several possible explanations to this weird saying. Maybe doggy was just a slang term for a key part of the saying that I didn't get. Or maybe dog world was a whole other expression within the expression itself. Or maybe the expression came from a funny pun about the world being a rough place. Who the crap knows? It's not like I was dying to figure it out. These were just passive, bored thoughts of mine that I had always kept to myself. I'd spend a few minutes at a time pondering it for years with zero desire to figure out the truth. It was just a dumb saying after all. It wasn't until college when, while chatting with a group of potential friends, in front of God and without a single hint of irony, I actually externalized the words, "It's a dog-eat-dog world out there." And it wasn't until having my words heavily dissected by people I was hoping to impress that I learned the embarrassing truth. I had never felt so naked. Well, you're in good company. Everyone has a mind-erasing laser like that. That was r/AskReddit, and if you're looking for more funny or uplifting AskReddit stories, then go ahead and check out the playlist link in the description below. Also, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to share it on social media so that other people can get their daily dose of Reddit happy. Now you guys go out there, have a great day, I will see you all tomorrow. Until then, I'm Exile451, stay beautiful people.